Hi, Mona.
Hi, Abby. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
I'm
On this
so glad.
Friday Eve.
That's right. Friday Eve. Gosh, I sometimes don't know what day it is. And thank you for reminding me. I'm very happy to have you here. And you and I know each other oddly, backwardsly, twistedly through the infertility world, though you don't work specifically in infertility, nor is it a part of your personal story. But you work for a wonderful supplement company, which we're going to talk about more.
Mhm.
And you're a registered dietitian and a practitioner in the women's wellness space. And I would love to hear really how you got there. Did you always want to work in this space and what it's been like for you?
Well, that's a great question. I s- I never really knew what I wanted to do as a kid. Some kids or teenagers or high schoolers know exactly what career path they want to follow. I didn't. I knew I wanted to do something within the health, medical science field, but I wasn't quite sure. My
Hmm.
mom was a medical lab tech. I knew I didn't want to draw blood or work in the back in the lab. I didn't want to
Sure.
do that either. So in my, I'll say college career, because it really felt like a career. I was in college for a long time. I took a lot of science. I took a lot of math, physics, chemistry, all those types of classes. Eventually got a bachelor's in exercise physiology. And that took me to an internship down in Dallas, Texas, which was at the Cooper Institute for Aerobics Research, very well-known research center. And while I was there, there was a dietitian that also worked there, and I spent some time with her and talked with her about nutrition, her field, etc. Because in high school, my early high school days, I struggled with eating disorders, and that lasted until even today, I still have some struggles with eating disorders, body image, etc. And that just, if somebody has an eating disorder, then food is always on their mind. And for me, nutrition was on my mind. And so I took a lot of classes that involve nutrition as well. In exercise physiology, you have a lot of classes that are also nutrition-based classes, like biochemistry is one, um, other just general nutrition classes, etc. And then I left Texas, ended up in South Dakota, in Rapid City, South Dakota for a while. And that was always in the back of my mind, kind of looming in the back of my mind, like, what do I want to do with my life? Because at that point, I still wasn't really in a career that I really enjoyed. And ended up going to grad school for nutrition and was able to complete my undergrad requirements to be a dietitian at the same time. So that kind of culminated me into the registered dietitian field. And then ultimately I ended up working in nutrition. I've worked, or in, not in industry, I've worked in supplements, food, and then back in the supplement industry for a while. And just thoroughly enjoy educating people about nutrition and also, working through my own, I guess, healing and recovery from the eating disorders
I
aspect.
want to talk more about that if you're
Mhm.
willing.
Sure.
So how do you remember how old you were when you first consciously knew you had disordered eating?
Yeah, I was 15. It goes back to a story that my brother, it was a statement that my brother made, unbeknownst to him, that it would lead down this path. And it wasn't a malicious intent at all, but he's 2 years older than me. And he had a girlfriend who was his same age. And something was said that she and I weighed the same. And in my head, it got twisted into a lie of like, I'm a sophomore and I weigh the same as a senior. Oh my
Wow.
gosh, you're fat. And so that lie just kind of perpetuated and that kind of started
Wow.
the whole cycle of disordered eating
From
for
that
me.
moment, like up
Mhm.
until then, it didn't cross your mind.
Not really. I mean, I grew up in North Dakota and we're pretty active. We were playing outside all the time, even if it was cold. Um, my mom cooked, she's a good cook and she cooked typical what Midwestern meals, stuff. My dad worked outdoors in construction, so obviously he was hungry when he got home,
Yeah.
so I was kind of picky, I think, as a kid. Most kids are, but I didn't really think about it, I don't think, until that was said. And because
Wow.
I was working at the time, I could control it. Like, the other subconsciously, the other aspect of that is my dad was alcoholic and he got sober pretty much right around the same time. So there may have been an aspect of control for me because usually in an alcoholic family or some kind of an addiction family, people are looking for control.
Yeah.
And from an eating perspective, that's the one thing I could control. And once I started working, it was simple for me to control it. If my mom said, "Hey, are you going to eat?" No, I have to go to work.
Or I
Simple.
ate at work or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's so interesting. Did your dad remain sober?
He did.
That's
He did.
incredible. Good for
Yes.
him.
Yeah.
And so when you left that conversation with your brother and started taking control of this as a teenager, were you hungry? Were you anorexic? Were you binging? What did it look like?
Yeah, I was probably more on the anorexic side, although I didn't get like severely, my weight didn't get below 100 pounds.
Mm,
Because also at the same amount of time in high school, I started to drink, so there was always
right.
the alcohol that was involved. But I didn't have breakfast. I wouldn't have lunch. If I was working, I may have a salad for dinner, that kind of stuff. But on the weekends, I would still go out and drink. So most people who are anorexic wouldn't even do that. And I don't want to pigeonhole anybody.
Of course.
Um, but it was something I think that gave me social, if you're otherwise I would have isolated myself if I didn't go out with folks, and friends at work and or at school and all that kind of stuff, then you would have isolated yourself, and that's not what I wanted to do.
And did you know at the time, were you conscious you were doing it? Were you like, I'm controlling this, I'm not eating enough? Was there any thinking that you might get sick?
No. And it's interesting because if my mom had made a comment about my weight, it would fuel the fire. It would
Mm,
fuel I think the control of I was winning in a sense. So it was almost like she was subconsciously, it was an advocate for me. It's like, fine, then I'm going to restrict even more. So, uh, I'm sure that's not what she wanted.
of course. All right. But you
But
were thinking like it's working and people are
yeah.
noticing.
And I would in my mind calculate calories to the best of my ability of what did I burn shoveling snow, what did I burn
Wow.
walking to school. I only had salad for dinner, so I was good. If I went to bed feeling a little bit hungry, then it was a successful day. So,
Okay. And at what point did you turn this around?
well, as I mentioned, when I turned 21, I took a quarter off of my college career, and sorry, I just had an alert. I took a quarter off, and I spent a lot of the time I turned 21. I spent a lot of time that summer water skiing, like almost every day water skiing. And then there was a bar right on the river, and the boat just goes to the dock right at the bar. And it was just super convenient. So we just would go to the bar. If I didn't have to work, we go to the bar. So then bar food happened and all that. And I had gained weight and I wasn't comfortable. And that lasted about a year. And then I was invited to a bodybuilding contest with a friend of mine, and I was
As
very
like
intrigued.
as an attendant, like to
Yeah,
go okay.
yeah.
Not to participate as a
Mhm.
bodybuilder. Okay, just checking.
And I was so intrigued. I was like, huh. So I talked to a friend of mine who was Mr. North Dakota at the time, and I said, do you think I could do that? And he graciously offered to do my diet for me. And then there was a guy I knew at the gym. I didn't work out until I was after high school. I wasn't in sports, anything like that. I was in band, but not sports. And then another guy at the gym trained me. So for 9 months, my nutrition was perfect and with the workouts. And I realized it was at that point. So I was about 22. I realized, oh my gosh, had I known the way that the body could change just through nutrition and food alone, I never would have had to have an eating disorder.
Mm,
And even though I had all that knowledge, it didn't like, oh, I'm done, I'm cured, I don't have like eating disorder or disorder eating, call it now anymore. So I did end up competing about 9 months later. And then again, you don't know what they call reverse diet. And weight came back on, and ended up going to college to get my bachelor's degree in exercise physiology. And when I was down in Texas, I wasn't in the best of shape. But then when I went to South Dakota, again, had another shift, changed my habits, basically changed my lifestyle to be healthier, and cut back on the alcohol, because alcohol was in my 20s, alcohol was
of
not a
course.
friend. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was a friend, but not in a good way.
But I was like,
Uh,
it was your frenemy.
that's
Yeah,
yes, very
sure.
much so.
Hmm.
Thankfully, that is no longer an issue.
Good.
Um, and before I got married, was able to uh, get down into a healthier weight, work out more, and all of that. And I still even had body image issues. I I have not met one woman, I don't think, that hasn't had body image issues, at least at some point in her
Yeah.
life. And if she doesn't, I'm like, how do you do that? You know, and a lot of it comes from internally and understanding who you are and your identity. Especially now as I transition to menopause, that's even a crazier train
Mhm.
that
Yep.
that women go through. I mean,
Yes.
gosh, the stuff we go through is
It's
literally,
really, I know. It's like life is just one big roller coaster.
yep, crazy train. So.
Okay. So when you were experiencing disordered eating, did you have any visions, dreams, desires to be a parent? And did it cross your mind that it might affect that long term?
Not really. So when I was a kid, you know, you always have that dream. I'm going to get married by this age because my mom got married at that age. I'm going to have two kids because my mom had two kids, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then as I grew up, I worked as a waitress in a restaurant.
Hmm.
And little kids would run in front of, I carried huge trays and little kids would run in front of me. I'm like, oh my gosh, where's your parents? You know, like
Hmm.
this is going to be disastrous. So there was always a part of me when I was probably in high school that wasn't quite sure if I wanted to have kids. When I got married, I pretty much knew. I thought my ex-husband wanted to have kids, but he never really voiced it. I think he was okay either way. And he did voice that he probably had some low sperm quality, volume, etc. Um, when I went off birth control, I never got pregnant. We were married for 8 years. I was off birth control for 7, and I never got pregnant.
Mm.
So I
Were you
often
getting your
want
cycle regularly?
no.
Mm.
I was it was somewhat irregular. I could predict it would be 6 to 8 weeks.
Mm.
And but if it was delayed, then I knew is that body image thing, that I knew my body fat was somewhat lower. So I was actually kind of striving for it to be a little bit delayed.
Wow.
And I didn't start like the age of menarche, I didn't start until I was 16.
Mm.
And I only had it once in high school till I got out of high school,
Wow.
which was quite convenient in high school. I think most women
Sure.
probably, you know,
You were
wouldn't,
thrilled.
yeah, I wouldn't want to deal with that. And I didn't have to. Although in hindsight, it definitely wasn't very healthy.
Yeah.
So, you know, I never got pregnant. I do remember going to the doctor once and getting just answering some questions. Like, I think there was a potential diagnosis of PCOS, which I thought was strange, but I didn't know. And then I know I had one other procedure, I think, where they looked to see if your fallopian tubes were blocked
Hmm.
with some dye, and that was
Yep.
extremely painful.
Yes.
Uh,
Palagram. I can never do it right. An HSG, basically.
yeah, that was horrible. At
Yeah.
first, I'm watching it going, "Oh, that's kind of cool," and then the pain hit, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Holy buckets!"
Yeah.
And all of that was okay. So it could have been a combination between both my husband and I. And there was an opportunity too for me to adopt my cousin's baby. And then her boyfriend at the time said he wanted, whether it was his or not, he wanted to keep it. So that fell through. So
Was that bad or hard? Like, had you gotten your heart set on that?
I was, when she said it to me in such a strange way, like, you want it? And I'm like, what? Like, what? And my mom was there and her
Whoa.
dad was there. And I was like, are you serious? And so I went home and talked to my ex at the time, or my husband at the time, and he said, sure. And then when I called her, I think later, or she had called me back, she had decided no, but they were going to keep it.
Wow.
And so that it makes me wonder. And then when I went through divorce, which was horrendous, I don't wish that on anybody. Although, you know, you grow from it and you learn from it, and my life is much better now than what it was. I remember thinking, um, the aloneness and the loneliness was really hard.
Mm.
I had two dogs, thank God that I
Mm.
kept the dogs, because, you know, when people get divorced and if there's kids involved, it's horrible for the kids.
Mhm.
Although maybe that helps keep the parents, if they're really suffering from loneliness, less lonely
Mhm.
because they could focus on the child.
Mhm.
And I hope I'm not minimizing anything for anybody. I mean,
Mm.
divorce is horrible, but I didn't have that. So now I had to face my demons,
Yeah.
which, um, uh, you know, I was able to compete. I did compete again after that a couple times. And then
Amazing.
I started racing. So I got divorced when I was 40, and, you know, the lies in your head of you're old, who's going to want you
Mm,
now type
mm.
question is, I mean, they just kept going on and on and on. But I was able to compete again. I raced bikes for a long time. Recovered from 2 bike accidents that were pretty significant during that decade. And now I'm transitioning into the whole menopause thing, and it's interesting because I do know as I started dating again too, I always looked for a man who had kids, because then I could be a grandmother and not ever have
Mm.
to have, I didn't, still have that opportunity, at some point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. And the man I'm dating now, he does have kids, so it's cool.
Nice.
So
So in this whole between divorce, the biking, the weightlifting, where was the eating disorder? It seems like it came and went. How did you make it come and go?
it still can rear its ugly head. I think when I was training and I was working with a personal trainer, and she also did my diet at the time, um, I kind of shifted my mindset in the sense of I would eat for fuel
Mm,
and versus out of emotion, etc. I do know one thing, like when I was going through my divorce and the stress was extremely high, I'm not one to eat when I am that stressed. I will not eat,
mm.
which wasn't healthy either.
Right.
But at least I didn't have to manage eating just everything in sight. So that
Mm.
in a sense was a little bit helpful. And the so right now I really just kind of shift my eating to be as healthy as possible, and yet also try to enjoy life. I was just over in Portugal, so it's a self conversation of just try the food. I don't eat wheat and I don't eat dairy, but yet sometimes overseas you can have some wheat and dairy and it's not bad
Right.
because of the
Because it's
way that
not
it's
processed.
processed and the
Yeah.
way it's grown over there. So I did try some of the food over there a little bit more and made sure that I was able to do some more walking. In Portugal. You walk everywhere and there's hills that are, I swear, 12% incline. So you're definitely getting a workout if you're not even able to go to the gym. So it's still kind of something that I struggle with, but it's now more of eating for energy, eating to fuel the body. Um, and especially as I age and as your cells and may not function as well as you want them to. I do a lot of different life hacks, but nutrition is always top of mind.
Okay, so let's get into your life hacks and to your cells because I feel like that's a good segue to talk about your work.
Hmm.
Can you tell us who you work for and what they do?
Sure. I work for TruNiagen, which is the brand name. It's a form of B3. The company is Chromadex. And TruNiagen is a unique form of B3 called nicotinamide riboside. And what it does is it
Or
increases.
NAD for those of us who will never remember the full name of it.
Oh, well, nicotinamide riboside is the B3. It
Oh, got it, got
increases.
it. Your
Yeah, it
NAD.
Yeah, it
Got it.
increases NAD in the
Okay.
cell. And NAD is a very long nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, but we'll just call it
Okay.
NAD for
There we
short.
go.
And that is a molecule that's found in every single cell in the body. And it's involved in somewhere between 500 to 900 different chemical processes in the body. Its two primary functions, though, in every cell is cellular energy production. And that's in the form of ATP, as well as cellular defense and repair. So for
Wait,
instance,
what's ATP?
ATP is energy, adenosine triphosphate.
Okay. So
And
that's like the
that's,
unit that it's measured in within the cell.
yeah,
Okay.
it's what we call currency,
Okay.
energy currency in the cell. So that ATP is made through your food that you eat. Your body breaks it down and it creates ATP with the help of NAD. And it goes, and that ATP allows your body to do all the functions that it needs, voluntary and involuntary. So whether you're going to work out or it's to keep your heart beating, does it all, along with many other things in the body.
Sure.
And so as we age, that NAD begins to decline, not only with time, but also with exposure to different metabolic stressors, such as overtraining could be one, or even a sedentary lifestyle, which most of us have experienced since the pandemic. Sunburn, for instance, excessive sun exposure, excessive alcohol, high fat, high sugar diets, viral exposures, and other immune stressors will deplete NAD. And the reason that that happens is because the body kicks in and sees like this metabolic stressor that's external and it's like, oh my gosh, we have to defend the cell. And the way that it defends that cell is to increase consumption of NAD. So those processes, the defense processes can work. It's kind of like a defensive line in football in a sense, you know, it's gearing up to defend the line and protect the quarterback, defensive, offensive
So it
line.
uses all of its energy to do that,
So
and therefore,
it uses the NAD and then it depletes it. So when you're exposed, not only over time with energy or with age, but then those metabolic stressors, it depletes the pool of NAD that you have in your body. So consumption becomes greater than production.
Mhm.
So what TruNiagen does is it increases NAD in the body. We have 15 different clinical studies that show specifically that it increases NAD to a significant level after just 2 weeks of supplementation daily with as low as 300 milligrams. You can get higher NAD increases with higher amounts. We have another 500 milligram product that you can take twice a day for 1,000 milligrams and increase it 150%.
And I think you have 1,000, don't you have 1,000 milligram one as well?
That's our 500. It's 200.
Oh, it's two of those.
It says 1,000 milligrams on the label and it's 500 milligram capsules.
Got it.
And that one will increase at 150%. And the other unique function of NAD is mitochondrial health. And we know that when you're trying to make a baby, that your cells, especially the egg cell, needs to have some energy to function and function well. And that having enough NAD and supporting that, the mitochondria, helps your body and your cells to create the energy that it needs to replicate should it get fertilized. And so there's anecdotal data right now. We don't have any clinical data specifically on fertility or reproductive health, but we do have some anecdotal data about supporting the mitochondria through increasing NAD and cellular health.
And so this is how we ended up meeting, because we met at a fertility event where you were explaining to this very committed group how the TruNiagen can help on the fertility journey. And also I feel like I asked people what they know about TruNiagen and they're like, Dr. Amy takes it. So she's like your best ambassador out there, as she should be. So how quickly do the effects of TruNiagen hit your body? So like if I'm feeling super stressed and super depleted and I start taking TruNiagen, when will that factor make me feel a little bit better?
Yeah, so what we know is that it starts to increase your NAD the moment you start taking it. And with daily consistent supplementation, then your body is going to begin to kind of increase its ability to produce NAD. That sometimes people feel that, sometimes people don't. It's very similar to taking vitamin D, for instance, or fish oils. You know that they're working on that cellular level, but you don't feel it. You just know that it's working. So we know through science that it is working. Some people might feel energy. Some people might feel it from the first time that they start taking it. They might feel a boost of energy. Yet we had another woman that we partner with, a dietitian, who it made her sleepy. So she now takes it at night.
I was just going to ask you, if your body's sort of replenishing itself in some way, does it cost energy?
Yes, if your body is kind of cleaning house per se, you know, we hear the words autophagy or mitophagy, which is either your cells kind of cleaning out the old cells, or mitophagy is your mitochondria cleaning out the old cells in the mitochondria, so that the recharged cells per se can function better without having all the uncharged or low battery cells in the way.
Okay.
It's kind of like cleaning out your garage, you know.
Which I feel like I need to do. And anytime somebody even like mentions it, I'm like, oh, my garage, and I get stressed. But yeah, we all feel that way, right?
Yeah. And so when our bodies can begin to do that and function better that way, because that's also a function that happens automatically in our body, but as we age, that function doesn't happen as well as it should. And increasing NAD can help that that function, the mitophagy and the autophagy, a little bit better. So there's a lot of different what we call hallmarks of aging. There's about 12 of them now, and mitochondrial health is one of them. Senolytics, that's kind of the other one, getting rid of the waste products and helping our body optimize that.
Is there anyone that can't take TruNiagen?
So what we know right now, and where especially as I educate folks, is anybody who has active cancer or anybody who's a survivor. We just don't know right now with cancer. So there are some studies that show that if you catch cancer early, then increasing NAD could support the immune system and help your body fight it off. And then there's other studies that show and these are all in animal data, so we don't quite know yet in people. A late stage cancer, increasing NAD could potentially feed the cancer. So we're not sure.
Because it's reproducing cells.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's replicating. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And all cancer is different.
Right.
So some of them behave differently. And we have a well-known breast cancer researcher on our scientific advisory board, and she's done preclinical work that shows that NAD could be protective in rodent models and or cell models in a dish. So we're still investigating that, and I always err on the side of conservatism on that. Where definitely speak to your oncologist if somebody is in active cancer or in recovery from cancer before you begin to supplement and increase NAD.
And can you take it while breastfeeding?
We don't have any clinical data showing that.
And I'm adding, and I'll add it 100 times, and it's on my show notes. We aren't doctors. Everybody check their own doctor. Everybody check your own situation. But I'm curious what your data shows.
We have never done any studies in that with regard to somebody taking it while they're breastfeeding. There was one rodent study that was done by our scientific advisor on our scientific advisory board. He's our chief scientific advisor. And he did a rat study where they fed mothers, pregnant rats, NR, and then their pups that they had actually had better balance, better improvements from when they did like memory tests and things like that, and they did any kind of brain types test, and I think they grew better. So it's interesting to see what happens in rodent models with that. And then there is an ongoing study that we hope can get started and get funded, where we're looking at women of preterm babies, that once they deliver, if they take NR, will it increase milk production? And so that study has not been done. It's in process of trying to get funded, but that is also something, it's posted on clinical trials. So it's something very interesting to see, what will it do? Is it a galactobog?
Yeah.
So
do you take it every day?
Yeah. And my dose changes. So it could either be 300, it could be up to 1,000 to 1,500. I had a couple surgeries last year, and so in prep for the surgeries, I amped up my dose to about 1,000 to 1,500, depending on which version I had, 300 or 500 milligrams.
And how would you decide what dose to give yourself? So obviously pre-surgery, it makes sense. You want your body to heal, but why did you then go back down to 300?
I went down after probably a month or so post-surgery, just because I was getting into recovery. And then for me, it was a dose that worked well. It was either 300 or 500. I would always stay there. So it was just something that was kind of my baseline dose that I decided to choose for myself. So a lot of it depends on what kind of stressors are going on in life. Are you going to be going on vacation, for instance? That kind of culminates a lot of the stressors with the diet, alcohol, food, sedentary lifestyle, sun exposure, all of that kind of stuff kind of culminates on a vacation. If I'm going on vacation, I will increase it a little bit.
You'll up it.
If I'm
It's so funny to think about, because you're like, oh, but you're going on a vacation to relax. You could decrease it. But I hear what you're saying. It's like the more fun you're having, the higher it needs to go.
Right. And I don't think a whole lot of people who tend to go on vacation really relax, because they're doing XYZ. They got to get this done, got to get that done. And then you need a vacation from your vacation, usually.
Always. Yes.
When you get home.
Always.
Or if I travel a lot for work.
Okay. You'll up it. And does it, because of what it's doing, does it help with your immune system?
It's interesting because we have some cellular data that shows that NAD declines by up to 80% when exposed to viruses. So in the cell, there's obviously something going on. Do we have specific data showing that we've done clinically that shows that as somebody goes through the flu season, since we're coming up with cold and flu season right now, does it decrease your risk for getting sick or decrease your number of sick days if you are sick? We don't have that data right now. But based on the cellular data, there's something going on.
Interesting. And how old do you have to be to start taking it?
We usually recommend 18 as adult. We do have data in children in ataxia telangiectasia, which is a movement disorder. It's a brain disorder, but it affects movement. And that we have data in those kids, I think they're like one is just under 10 and then 10 through 18. There's a few in each of those. And they were taking lower doses, like 125 milligrams. And they showed improvement in that study.
Amazing.
In their movement.
And people can buy this pretty readily. It's pretty readily available, right? I know we can buy it from your website, TruNiagen, which of course we'll link out to. I think it's on Amazon. Can we trust what's on Amazon?
It is on Amazon. Yep, you can trust our product on Amazon.
Yes, your product. And where do you want it to be? Like where, because I still feel like it's pretty hush hush supplement. Like not that many people know about it. Why do you think that is?
You know, it's interesting. We talk about that a lot. I was just at a conference last week or so, and there was another cellular health company that was there. And I asked the question, I'm like, how are you marketing or how are you speaking to your consumers about this to build the awareness of cellular health? That's the $1,000,000 question. We know that the biohackers understand it and get it. General population, usually when they think about health, I think they think very organ specific. So heart health, bone health, joint health, or when something hurts, as we get older, oh, my knees hurt, my back hurts,
Right.
like my eyes, I can't see as well if I'm behind a computer all day. So then you go organ specific and you look for supplements that help with that. But because TruNiagen literally works on the cell, and all of those cells are all over your body, so they're in every organ. That could be part of the message, but then it's just takes the time. I remember when I was working at a food company, we had launched a product with DHA, and it was forever to try to build that message with DHA and brain health. And the supplier had huge campaigns going, so a lot of it is also campaigns and marketing campaigns to begin to educate people, using influencers when applicable, using credible key opinion leaders when applicable to help. Like Dr. Amy, she is a paid partner of us, and she's definitely getting the message out and how she uses it in her practice. So it's leveraging people like that who know about it and who can speak about it from a different perspective that I think will begin to build the awareness. It took vitamin D, upwards of 10 years for people to realize that they're not getting enough.
Isn't it crazy? Because now you go to a doctor, it's like the first thing they ask, do you feel like you're getting enough vitamin D?
Right. Yep.
I think also, I have no clue what your competitors, and by the way, do you feel like you have competitors? Because I feel like TruNiagen is in its own class. I feel like I've heard the only true way to get the NAD levels up is TruNiagen. And I don't know if it's clever marketing or truth or a combination of both. Are there other ones on the market? Obviously, you don't think they're as good, but that claim to be as good?
Well, we are the gold standard, specifically because of the research that we have behind our products. So I had mentioned we had 15 clinical studies that show a clinical and significant increase in NAD. We also have, though, in total over 30 human clinical studies and over 400 preclinical and clinical studies that back up Niagen and nicotinamide riboside. So it is clearly heavily studied. And then the other aspect is that we have an external research program that we titled CERP, so ChromaDex External Research Program. And that program is one of the only programs that we know of in the industry where it provides material, so our Niagen, as well as placebo, to third-party external researchers who want to do studies using NR. And because we're not funding the study, we're only providing material, it's very independent, and they decide the methods. So we don't have any say in how the methods of their study go. So that is also building the credibility and the gold standard behind ChromaDex and TruNiagen. There are competitors. There's different NAD precursors. For instance, all of the B3 vitamins, so different forms of niacin, which NR is one, nicotinamide, or sometimes known as niacinamide, although that can inhibit some of the proteins in your body, so that isn't one of the best ways to go. Niacin causes extreme flushing when taken in high doses. If anybody's ever done that, they won't do it again, likely. And then there's NMN. And NMN is not a B vitamin. And also here in the US, the FDA actually no longer allows NMN to be sold as a dietary supplement because it was originally notified to the FDA as a drug. And so if you notify as a drug first, it cannot be a supplement. And that's what happened with NMN here in the United States. So while you see NMN for sale, they don't do it on Amazon anymore, but you might see other places where they sell NMN. It legally cannot be sold.
Are we
And
saying
one,
NMN, letters NMN?
yeah, like
Okay.
Nancy, Mike,
Michael,
Nancy.
Nancy. Okay.
Yeah. And the difference too between NMN as well as TruNiagen and NR is that NMN chemically has a phosphate on it, and that phosphate cannot cross the cell membrane. It has to be broken off, and when that phosphate's broken off, it's NR. So it's converted outside of the cell into NR. NR crosses the cell membrane very easily, and in 2 short steps, it's converted into NAD.
Mm.
So NR is just more efficient.
I've
my
also
opinion.
seen it advertised at like an IV. You can get an IV of, or like an NAD IV. Can't
So
believe the amount of abbreviations we use, but it
I
would
know,
be
right?
like an IV drip of the NAD, and I've heard not effective.
So there's NAD IV that's been given intravenously, gosh, since the 1950s, and they use it to
Oh, wow.
treat addiction. That's one of the primary treatments for NAD IV. This year, we just launched NR IV. And so it's in some select infusion clinics around. And what we noticed specifically are NAD IV is very, very uncomfortable. It's about a 2 to 4 hour infusion because it hurts and it can cause GI issues like diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, burning and pain in the injection site. And that's why it takes so long to be infused. And then with NR, you don't have those symptoms. So it's a 75% faster infusion time. So time and share is definitely slower. Plus, at 3 hours, we did a little pilot study, and at 3 hours, we showed that it increased NAD faster or 20% higher than NAD IV did. So we have an increase in NAD that's a little bit higher at the 3 hour mark. And that was measured by a dried blood spot test kit card that we also launched this summer.
I
So
didn't know about
people,
that.
it's available right now to healthcare practitioners only, and people can get it through their healthcare practitioner. So if they have never supplemented before, they can do a baseline and then supplement anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks after, do another test to see how their NAD has increased. So that way
Wow.
they've got like a marker and a
Yeah.
tool, just another tool to watch to see how it goes. Because like I said, some people don't feel anything.
Amazing. Well, I'm very bad at taking my vitamins. I put them in a little dish. I mean, in a little thing with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. My TruNiagen is in it always. And some days I take the whole thing and sometimes I don't. But this is making me want to take it every single day and double when I've drank. Or eaten badly,
Yeah.
which I'm trying to cut down on both of those. So I look forward to experimenting with it for myself. I mean, I've been taking it for quite a while and very grateful too. And it does, even in perimenopause, I think it's helpful with energy and stuff and brain fog and all these things that, like you said, we're starting to deal with. In closing, I always just like to ask people, is there a phrase or expression, a piece of advice, any kind of saying that you or your family had that you think about on a regular basis?
You gosh, you had asked me this earlier and I had one and then I wasn't really
Well, you asked if you could say
thinking.
something faith-based, which you absolutely
Yeah.
can.
Kind of so I recently wrote a book. It's behind me is the book. And one of the quotes that I use in the book
Oh,
is
why didn't we
perfect.
talk about this?
That was so the book is Hell Bent in Heaven Word, and it goes through a lot of my story with regard to recovery.
Oh my
So
gosh. Well,
mhm,
we'll talk more. Well, you and I will talk more about this, and I'll for sure
yeah.
link out to this book. I had no idea.
Yeah, so Hell Bent in Heavenward, and one of the quotes is perfect is the enemy of good, and that is by Voltaire. And it applies to every part of life. For me, it applies like in the eating disorders and the body image and all of that, but it also applies at work too. If you're trying to prepare something and you want it to be perfect, you procrastinate and
Totally.
and then, and then all of a sudden you don't have something that you're supposed to have on the time frame that you're supposed to have it. And it's also kind of a control thing where for me anyway, where I know how to do this, so therefore I'm going to do it versus allowing feedback from other people because everybody has different perspectives and they can share something that maybe you didn't even think of. So to the best of my ability, that is the perfect is the enemy of good. And I try to just take feedback to the best of my ability. I mean, I'm also in Toastmasters, and we always talk about healthy feedback and how do you improve your speaking. So
Perfect is the enemy of good is so freaking good. I see it. My twins are 5, as you know, and there's a book called Ish. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
mm,
ISH. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be perfect-ish. It doesn't have to be complete. It has to be complete-ish. And just explaining this exact same idea as a concept to a 5-year-old in a way that they can understand. And I've seen they've read it for the first time 2 or 3 weeks ago, and
mm.
it's changed their life already. And I think it is this exact same theory, perfect is the enemy of good, but in a digestible way. And I think the earlier we can get that out there, it's so helpful. Thank you for that one.
Especially in those first 7 years when the brain is so formative and it just soaks up everything like a sponge. And it's so easy for kids to adapt and change at that time.
Yes.
They're so, gosh, if I could only go back to when I was 5 and I
Oh,
could
I know. I mean, hindsight is always
rewire.
2020. It's like
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mona. Thank you for being here. You're just
Yeah. Thank
wonderful,
you.
and I look forward to continuing to talk with you.
Yeah, it would be great.